We are recording this session like we're recording all of the PET sessions. This is session 2. We had our first session this morning and technology held up very well. And we hope the same thing will be true this afternoon. Let me get out of this picture so we can all see each other. And just like what we did this morning, we're going to go around and do introductions. There are a lot of us that are on the call. If you're in this gallery view and there's more than 25 people that you're seeing, you'll see a little arrow to the right on the gallery view, and that will allow you to see other people because there's many more people on than just what you can see in the one view. So I'm going to call off names as I see them in my list. And just please introduce yourself, your club, and your role. Doreen.
Am I unmuted? I guess I am. Hi.
Hi. So we want name, club, and role in 2020, 2021.
Okay, well, my name is Doreen Kelsey. I'm with the Rotary Club of Albuquerque del Sol. I just had tongue surgery, so my voice is a little weird, but I'm still able to talk. And my role next year is just going to be past district governor.
That's a great role. Sunny.
Hi, I'm Sunny Kellerman from Rotary Club of Silver City, New Mexico. I'll be your governor on July 1st.
Congratulations. Okay, we have a phone number, 505-920-3201.
That's me, McFarland.
Okay, you were cutting out. Can you say that one more time, please?
My name is Brian McFarland, President-elect, Rotary Club of Santa Fe.
Got it, Brian. Thank you.
Brian.
We have another phone number, 712-314-7282.
That belongs to me, Alan Bash, Sandia Rotary, Albuquerque, and I'm president-elect.
Excellent, thank you. Jim Hatcher.
Yeah, how about that? I was able to change my name. Amazing what you're doing there. Jim Hatcher, District Membership Chair for Stockton, Texas.
Thank you, Jim. Bianca.
Bianca Cheney, Roswell Rotary Club, new club board member. And I'm on the District Youth Exchange Committee.
Thank you. Don Bernardi.
Rotary Club of Albuquerque. I'll be the alumni chair this year.
Thank you, Dom. Bob Barnard.
Las Cruces, Rio Grande Rotary President-elect nominee.
Thank you. Bart Lozelli.
Hi, this is Bart in the dark from Silver City and president-elect of the Silver City Club.
Thank you. Bob Entrup.
Yes, Bob Entrup. I'm the incoming president of the Roswell Pecos Valley Rotary Club.
Thank you, Bob. Bonnie.
Bonnie Leslie, I'm the past district governor for 2014-15. And I'm a member of the Clovis, New Mexico Rotary Club, and I'll be the vice governor next year for Sunny. And I would like for all of you to join me in praying for Sunny's health.
I'm doing my very best, Norman. Thank you.
Steve McGinnis.
Hi there.
Can
you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm Steve McGinnis. I'm from El Paso's Northeast Club.
Great.
Thank you. Buffy.
Hi, Buffy Johnson, the president-elect of the Las Cruces Rio Grande.
Thank you. Brenda Waters.
I'm Brenda Waters from Angel Fire, New Mexico, and I'm president-elect.
Thank you. Bob Roush.
Yeah, Bob Roush from Albuquerque del Norte, current district governor nominee, soon to be district governor-elect.
Excellent. Bruce Bortner.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Bruce Bortner, Rotary Club of Albuquerque del Sol. Currently the, well, I do all the training. I'm a training person for this year for Barry. And next year I will be on the training team, and I'll also be on the Rotary Leadership Institute team as a faculty member.
Thank you, Bruce. Dick Jones.
Hi, I'm Dick Jones in Santa Fe, Rotary Club of Santa Fe, past district governor. Sonny's operational chair, which means I'll be planning her schedules for club visits. We're still very optimistic about that. And I'm also the youth protection officer for the district.
Thank you. And we're gonna go over some Zoom guidelines in a second, but I'm hearing some feedback. If you hear that feedback, please mute yourself, but then when we call on you, please unmute. Debbie Cox.
Yes, this is Debbie Cox from Angel Fire. I'm the Lieutenant Governor for the Northern Action Team.
Thank you, Debbie. Jimmy Melver.
Yes, this is Jimmy Melver, Northeast El Paso Rotary Club. I am the Assistant Governor for the South Region.
Thank you, Jimmy. Ed Robertson.
Yes, Ed Robertson here, Rotary Club of Albuquerque del Sol, President-elect.
Thank you, Ed. We have a Fred, but not last name.
Fred Pomeroy, President-elect, Los Lunas.
Excellent. Thank you, Fred. Gary Armijo.
Gary Armijo, Rio Rancho, and I'll be the president.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yay.
Jerry Pike.
Hello, Jerry Pike. Last one. Just got back from my bus run, so looking forward to this afternoon.
Come back.
Thank you. We have an iPad. Does anyone claim
Jim Bird.
iPad?
Jim Bird, Moriarty, President-elect.
Hi, Jim. Thank you. Patrick Sarabia.
Yeah, this is Patrick Sarabia. I'm the president-elect for the Northeast El Paso Rotary Club.
Thank you, Patrick. Sorry about getting your last name.
No problem.
Stephanie Hale.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Hale from the Alamogordo Rotary Club, and I am president-elect.
Thank you. Tim Sexton.
Hello, I'm still having video problems with my camera on my computer, but I am here. I am the Assistant Governor-elect for the Northeast Region and a member of the Raton Rotary Club.
Can you please mute? Thank you.
Yeah.
Beatrice. Beatrice? All right, let's keep going.
Yes, Veronica Williams from President-elect of Gallup sent us a chat. She doesn't have a microphone, but she's here.
Got it. Thank you. Bobby Hockaday.
Hi, I'm Bobby Hockaday, President-elect for Tucumcari Rotary Club.
Thank you. Christina Martinez.
Hi, I'm from the White Sands Club here in Alamogordo. I'm the president-elect.
Thank you. Dawn Bourgeois.
Hi, I'm Dawn. I'm the president-elect of San Juan County in Farmington.
Excellent. Thank you, Dawn. Danette Wagner.
Yes, Albuquerque Del Norte. I'm the assistant governor, and I'm also district executive secretary.
Thank you, Danette. Eileen, and I don't have a last name.
Comstock.
Okay.
Eileen, are you there?
Hi. Yeah, Eileen Comstock. I'm president-elect at Socorro Rotary.
Excellent. Thank you, Eileen. Eric Cortez.
Hi, my name is Eric Cortez of Espanola Rotary Club, and president-elect now and incoming president for 2020-2021. Thank you. Nice to meet y'all.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you. Frank, and I don't have a last name.
Rivera.
Frank Rivera, Rio Rancho Club, and also AG for some of the Metro clubs.
Thank you, Frank. Gabino.
Hi, I'm Gabino Tavera from the Camino Real Rotary Club. I'm the president-elect.
Thank you. Greg Pod.
Okay.
Greg?
Jeez, got music.
Sorry, Jeff.
That's how he's introduced all the time. Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, this is Greg Pod. I'm a member of the Evergreen Rotary Club in Evergreen, Colorado, and it's good to be with all of you.
Thank you very much.
Have you, Greg?
Jen Dresser.
I'm Jen Dresser with the Albuquerque Metro Rotary Club. This was the closest hat I had.
That's great.
That's great. Thank you.
Jessica Onsurez.
Hi, everybody. Jessica Onsuris. I am the president-elect of the Carlsbad Rotary Club.
Thank you. John Drusidum.
Hi, everybody. John Drusidum with Roswell Rotary. I'm currently an AG.
And?
That's it. And district governor nominee designate.
Excellent. Thank you. John Morrison.
John Morrison with the Socorro Rotary Club. I have a problem with seeing something and then asking the question, why not? And so I'm going to work on building clubs for the district.
Excellent. Thank you. Laura Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Laura Gonzalez. I'm from the Rotary Club of Los Alamos, and I'm the president-elect.
Thank you, Laura. Leo Lovett.
I'm with the Clovis Rotary Club and the president-elect.
Thank you, Leo. Leah Jordan.
I am Las Cruces Rotary Club, and I am the LG for 2020-21.
Nice hat, too.
Oh, thank you.
Marshall Poole.
Hello, my name is Marshall Poole. I'm with the Rotary Club of Las Vegas, New Mexico. I'm current president and on the technology team.
Yes.
Yes.
The guru. Michael Moore.
Hi, my name is Michael, and I'm the president-elect of Melrose.
Thank you, Michael. Elena Erickson.
Hi, I'm from the Rotary Club of Farmington, and I'm a president-elect.
Thank you, Elena. Patty Collins.
Hello, I am the president-elect of the Hobbs Rotary Club.
Thank you. Renee Canton.
Hello, I'm Renee Canton with the Truth Consequences Rotary Club and one of the co-chairs for Rotary Leadership Institute.
Thank you, Renee. Olga Torres.
Sorry, I'm Olga Torres. I am the secretary for the Northeast Rotary.
Thank you, Olga. Ron Hensley.
Hello, Ron Hensley from Albuquerque del Sol, AG, and this is my buddy. He wanted to say hi.
Oh.
Hi, Cam.
Hi.
That's great.
Good to see you.
That'll go viral when we publish the video, Ron.
Yeah, really.
Rose Contreras Taylor. Rose? She is on mute. Sandy Roush.
Unmute. Okay,
Hi,
there
this
I
is
go.
Sandy.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
this
Go
is-
ahead.
Well, this is Sandy Roush, President-elect of Albuquerque del Norte. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rose, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, this is Rose Contreras. I'm the Vice President of Rotary in Las Vegas. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Rose. Scott Stafford.
Hi, Scott Stafford, Albuquerque del Norte, and Assistant Governor of Central Area.
Thank you, Scott. Stephanie Hale.
I think we heard from Stephanie.
I think we already did me, but I'm Stephanie Hale from Alamogordo, President-elect again.
It showed up twice. It's on. Steve Westenhofer.
Steve Westenhofer, Deming, New Mexico, incoming AG.
Thank you, Steve. And we have another Steve, but I don't have a last name.
Hi, it's Steve Johnson, Santa Fe Centro and AG.
Excellent, thank you. Susanna Hallmark. Susanna? She's on mute. Oh, there she goes.
Hi, sorry about that. I couldn't get the unmute. I'm Susanna Hallmark from the West Side El Paso Club. I am President-elect.
Thank you. Tim Sexton.
We've heard from Tim.
We've heard from Tim. Tony Pino.
Hi, I'm Tony Pino from Albuquerque del Sol. I'm Lieutenant Governor for the Civil Action Team. So the Boys Riot Camp Director, if we have ILA this year. Also the Chair of the Governor's Chair, which we moved to August.
Thank you, Tony. Veronica. And I don't have a last name.
That might be the Veronica who doesn't have a microphone. Veronica
could be.
Williams from Gallup.
It could be. Okay. Yolanda King. Welcome, Yolanda.
So this is Gary King from the Rotary Club of Moriarty, District Governor. Obviously, I still haven't figured out how to. It's been a coup at our house, and my computer's changed its allegiance to Yolanda. And I got this hat from an African Rotary Club last year at the Rotary International.
A great head, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor.
And
Yasser.
Hey there, this is Yasser, President-elect Rotary Club of El Paso.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone that I missed?
Jeff?
Yes?
Marjo?
Hi, Marjo.
I'm here now. I thought I wasn't when you started.
Okay, please introduce yourself.
Marjo Skiles, President-elect, Marfa Club.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just joined in a little bit ago.
Okay, and what is your name?
My
and
name's
club?
Abel Legaspi, President-elect, Sunrise Rotary Club of El Paso.
Excellent, thank you.
Good to have
Anyone
you.
else?
Yes, Gordon Cox,
Oh,
President-elect from Angel Fire.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, a lot of people on the call. We've got 66, so okay, a few ground rules about our Zoom guidelines for a large group, which this is. We will try to do it as it is without having to mute everyone, but if we hear feedback, we will mute everyone except the presenters. If that is the case, you can interact several ways. One is to use the chat function in Zoom, which should be at the bottom of your screen. And if you use the chat option, either Sunny or I will read the question or the comment to the presenters. Or you can raise your hands. Give me 1 second, I need to share my screen, which I didn't do. Here we go. Or you can raise your hand. In order to raise your hand, if you open at the bottom of your screen, there's an icon called Manage Participants. When you open that, on the bottom right of that screen is a place where it says Raise Hand. And again, if you raise your hand, either Sunny or I will see that you've raised your hand, and we will acknowledge you, and you can ask your question, and then we will lower your hand. For those of you who happen to be on the phone only, neither one of those options would work, but if things are quiet, we will try to have you unmute so you can comment or ask your questions. If you find you're having internet problems, please consider using a phone instead. The phone line should work fine, but only if you're having internet problems. We will not be having a break during this session, so please feel free to get up, stretch, get something to eat as you see fit. To minimize feedback, if you happen to be on a computer and a phone, please just make sure that you have your computer on mute. Your microphone and speakers are turned off so we're not getting the feedback. So we will honor that as we go through this today. Okay, Sunny, would you like to introduce our special presenter?
I would very much like to do that. Thank you, Jeff. And I also want to thank Stephanie for your chat about our hats. And thank you, everyone who's wearing hats. We're working on making this fun. And we'll figure out every way we can to do it. It's my pleasure to introduce our after luncheon speaker today. And I want you to know that if I told you everything there is to tell you just about his Rotary credentials, it would take the rest of our time together. So I'm going to share just a few highlights so that you have a sense of how lucky we are to have Greg Pod. Greg is a past Rotary International Director from 2014 to 16 for our zone, and a past Rotary International Vice President for 2015 and 16. He is a certified public accountant, a personal financial specialist. He has been a speaker, a guest professor, a presenter, and has had his own practice since 1979. He's been a Rotarian since 1982, and as he mentioned, a member of the Evergreen Rotary Club. Greg, I think that's Denver, yes?
It's outside of Denver, Sunny.
Thank you, just outside of Denver. I'm going to tell you just a few of the things he's done. Honestly, it seems like there's very little in Rotary he's not done. He's been a Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator, a Rotary International Finance Committee member, a Regional Rotary International Membership Coordinator, an RI Training Leader, a Rotary Foundation Major Gift Advisor, a Group Study Exchange Leader, a President's Rep for district conferences and the like, a Rotary International Council and Legislation Representative, and then I've mentioned Director and Vice President. He is a recipient of Rotary Service Above Self Award and the Rotary Foundation Citation for Meritorious Service Award. And what I want you to know about past Rotary International Vice President Greg Pod is he is one of the gifts to our zone and to our district. And we are really blessed that he likes us too. I've found him not only thoroughly enjoyable, but also wise and incredibly helpful. And today he is going to talk to us about getting real about membership. Would you please join me in, they have to unmute yourself to do this. Join me in welcoming past Rotary International Vice President Greg Pod.
Welcome. Thank you, Sunny. I appreciate that very much. Okay, Jeff, how do we share my screen with you?
I'm getting to it. Here we go. So this is your presentation, correct, Greg?
No, I was going to work off of my keynote presentation.
Oh, so what I will do then, I will unshare my screen and then you can share your screen.
Okay. Hey, can everybody see that screen?
We cannot, not yet.
Not yet.
No, I have a bald head.
Hold on just a second. Wait a second. Hold on, Jeff. I apologize here.
Don't apologize. We were just acknowledging this morning that technology is a mixed blessing.
All right, Jeff, hold on a second. Let me go back to something real quick.
Okay.
All right. Jeff, I had that presentation and now let's see what happened to it.
But it's not the one that you emailed me earlier today?
It is, but that's a PDF of it.
But it's up and I can go through it if you just give me cues.
I'd rather share if I can.
I think.
Hold on a second, Jeff. Let me do something.
I want to say it's refreshing to know that even such an illustrious personage as yourself encounters these issues from time to time.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and can I share my screen with you now?
If we're not seeing it, but if you click on that green button at the bottom where it says share screen, and then
Which I did.
And then select your presentation, we should see it.
Are you able to see it at all?
Not yet.
Well, I'm not sure why that's not happening. Oh, wait a second. I see what's happening. Okay, hold on.
There we go.
We go.
Okay. Okay, well, good afternoon to everybody, and thank you very much for being on here. What I'd like to do today is to go over quite a few slides with you to show you what is happening in regard to Rotary membership. And Jeff and Sunny, I guess I can be available for questions afterwards or during the presentation, whatever you'd like.
What's your preference?
I can, if you can relay the questions to me, I'd be very happy to answer them as we go through.
Okay, we'll keep an
Is
eye
that
out
all right,
on
Jeff?
that. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Let me give you an example of what is happening to membership in Rotary. And some of this may be a little disturbing to you, but when I discussed this with Sunny, I told her that we really needed to get real with membership in Rotary. And let me just show you what's happening in regard to our 5-year trend in regard to membership. And this is throughout the world. You can see that in 2015, we started out at 1.2 million members. As of 2019, we're down to 1.189 million members. So this trend has been continuing for some time. I will tell you that other organizations like Kiwanis and Lions are having equal problems like we are having in Rotary. Let me also tell you what is happening in regard to.
Hold on, Greg. I'm going to mute everyone.
Single mothers waiting on a check to come.
And then I'm going to unmute you. Okay.
Okay. We're okay?
Yes.
You can see from this particular graph, some of you have seen this before, we have had a very consistent decline in membership over the past 10 years. You can see that we're losing around 60,723 net members per year. And when I say net, I mean we gain them and we lose more than we gain. And you can see that's running around 6,723 net lost members per year in Rotary in North America. So let's go over something else that I think is very important, and that is what is going on in the Rotary world over the past 10 years. And this is very significant, and I'm not going to get into the repercussions of this because they are very large, but you can see what's happening since 2009. Asia has gone from 26% of Rotarians to 32% of Rotarians. Most of that loss has come from Canada, the Caribbean, and the United States, which I will refer to as North America in this presentation. So you can see that most of the other areas of the Rotary world are staying very consistent, except for Great Britain and Ireland have gone down 1%. Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands have gone down 1%. But as you drop membership like we've done in North America, you lose what I call influence in Rotary International. It impacts how directors are selected, how presidents are selected, how trustees are selected, how people are selected for the council and legislation. So again, it has a lot of different repercussions as a result of what's going on. So let's look at a couple of other facts that are happening. When you look at the average decrease, as I indicated, we are decreasing around 6,072 members per year in North America, which has caused us this last year to literally have 2 zones from the United States be eliminated, which automatically causes a director from North America to be eliminated on the board of directors of Rotary International. So if you think about it, and I want to do a little bit of math here, in 57 years, if we continue on this trend, Rotary in North America will no longer be in existence. Now, I know that may be a little shocking to you, but again, we have been very consistent on this trend of 6,000 net members per year. Let's go on to the next slide, and I'll try to get here a little bit. So you think about it, we've got basically 2 issues that we need to solve. One of them is the retention issue. And this may be a little shocking to some of you, but I want to show you the people that are coming into Rotary and the people that are leaving Rotary. So we are adding every year around 158,000 members, but we are losing 164,500 members. So if you think about it, you, Rotary International, districts, and certainly clubs are having what I call a retention issue. 52% of all the members of Rotary are leaving in less than 3 years. And think about your own club. Are they coming in the front door, and are they leaving out the back door in a very quick manner? And that's an issue that has got to be resolved if we're going to change this membership, not only in North America, but not only in North America in your district, but also Rotary International. Let's look at one of the other issues that needs to be resolved. And I want to bring up this chart to show you what is happening. Right now, again, 1.1 million members, 38,000, almost 36,000 clubs. Here are 2 issues that are happening that's causing our membership to decrease. First of all, 5% of all of our membership in Rotary is under the age of 40. In other words, one of the things that we are doing is Rotary International and Rotary per se is not attracting and keeping young people. It is not being relevant to them, this particular organization, the way that we are operating at the present time. One of the other issues that is really a critical issue is only 23% of all of Rotary are women. And if Rotary is going to be a relevant organization for the next 100 years, we're going to have to look at diversification and then also invite and keep individuals under the age of 40. So again, these are some of the issues that we have to resolve in Rotary. So I guess one of the things that we have to look at is we have two choices. Choice one would be to simply, it is what it is. Allow our continue to do what we're doing and see the results that we get. And that unfortunately has been the trend over the past 10 years in North America. And one of my favorite individuals is this particular individual, Albert Einstein. And I hope that he got his hair done before he had this particular photo taken. But Albert Einstein came up with a quote that I'd like to quote right now. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. And I think that's one of the things that we have to ask ourselves as president-elects of our club. Are we doing the same thing over and over, and are we expecting different results? And I can tell you over the past 10 years, I think we have been trying to do that exact same thing. The other choice that we have is choice number 2. And this is the one that I would like for all of us to look at. Enough is enough. Well, let's draw a line in the sand. Let's look at our clubs, critically look at our clubs, look at what we're doing, and are we relevant in our particular community? And that's something that each one of our president-elects, as you take office this July 1, can look at. Is your club relevant in your community? And are you attracting and are you retaining the members that we have at the present time? So let's look at some of the things that Paul Harris once said. He knew that we would go through this particular phase of Rotary. The world is a changing place and we must be prepared to change with it. And I can tell you that we've been around for around 115 years. The model that we are using right now in Rotary is the same model that we had 115 years ago. Paul knew that we have got to be prepared to change. And I'm not sure that we are changing as rapidly as we're going to need to. So do I have all the answers to membership issues? Absolutely not. There's no way that I could tell you that. But what I'd like to do is look at successful regions of Rotary and let's try to figure out what they're doing and that what we're not doing, and maybe we can learn from this particular of what they're doing. So what are they doing that we're not? I'm going to show you this chart again to remind you of what areas of Rotary are growing. If you look at it over the last 10 years, Asia has added 64,155 net members over the last 10 years. The United States has lost 60,723. A net shift of membership, almost 125,000 members around the world. So let's look at what has happened. So I want to share with you a district that my wife Pam and I went to in 2014. We were president reps at this particular conference, District 3460 in Taiwan. And I don't tell you this fact to embarrass District Governor Gary or discourage District Governor-elect Sonny, but I want to share with you what happened at this particular district conference. This conference happened to have 5,600 participants. 98% of all their Rotarians were at this conference. Over 4,000 Rotarians and almost 1,400 spouse and partners. The picture that you see on the screen is not the individuals that were at the conference. This is the members that were part of the conference planning committee. There are over 250 people that were planning this particular conference. Pretty amazing sight if you ask me. So one of the things that I did when I saw this particular results is I asked the district governor, how in the world was he able to get 5,600 people at a district conference? And he gave me one word, and that word was culture. Rotarians that he said were proud to be Rotarians. Rotarians that attend district events as part of being a Rotarian. And they always wear their Rotary pin. Think about that in your club. District 3460 is no longer in existence because in 2014-15, they had a net increase of members of over 900, a 21% increase in members. They are now been divided into 2 districts. So you can imagine what growth has done for this particular area of the world. So it can't be that easy. It can't be just one word called culture. So let's ask some of the experts around the world, and I'd like to refer you to an individual who I admire very, very much. He's a Rotarian in Australia, and his name is Michael Mcqueen. He's a trendsetter, and he's a 5-time best-selling author. And he wrote a book called Momentum. And he basically said that North America has lost its momentum. We are used to going down, and we continue going down every year. And one of the things that he said is, how do we build it? How do we keep it on track, and how do we get it back? Well, again, it can't be that simple. So I think we've lost something more than just momentum. And I'd like to give you a term that I hope that some of you remember after this particular presentation. I think one of the things that we have lost in North America is we have lost our Rotary Mojo. Now, what do you mean by Rotary Mojo? I'll share that with you. Now, you may think that this is kind of crazy, but mojo is, think about this, a quality that attracts people to you and makes you successful and full of energy. As all of you president-elects are on this particular Zoom today, I want you to ask yourself and your board, does your club attract members to make them successful and your club successful, and is your club full of energy? Because if it's not, I would contend that maybe you've lost your Rotary Mojo. So let's go on and look at organizations that lost their mojo and never got it back. And I'll use an example of what most of you on this phone would probably remember. It's called a firm that was called Kodak. And how many on this phone remember Kodak moments? It was very, very popular back when I was growing up. And everybody in the world was thinking of Kodak moments. So let's go to another thing that happened with Kodak. Kodak in the 60s was the Google and the Apple of today. In the early 80s, management concluded, and this is really interesting, that digital photography lacked the quality, comparability, affordability, and appeal necessary to supersede traditional films. Boy, am I glad I wasn't on the board of directors at Kodak to make that comment. Well, let me just tell you what happened to Kodak. Some of you may remember this. But first of all, you have to realize that last year, over 1.1 trillion photos were taken on phones last year. So I think Kodak was probably very wrong on their assumption of what happened. So if you think about it, they lost their mojo. And I think one of the things that happened to Kodak is very simple. They burned up, and Kodak declared bankruptcy in January of 2012. And I like the little picture that's on there. They lost their mojo. If found, please send it back with a healthy dose of butt kicking. Well, it's a little bit late for that. Kodak is gone. But again, they lost their mojo, and they never got it back. So let's look at a company that lost its mojo, and they got it back. And I think this will surprise some of you. It is the only company in the world that I truly believe ruins clean water. Now, I can't take a poll of that right now, but I'd like for some of you to think of the company that you may fit this. And I will tell you the name of the company that lost its mojo and got it back was a company called Starbucks. I'll give you a good example of what happened to Starbucks. Starbucks in October of 2006, lost 80% of its value. Starbucks almost went bankrupt. It was a company that simply was not connecting, was not relevant with its customers, and therefore was going out of business. All of a sudden, there was an individual named Howard Schultz who returned to Starbucks in January of 2008. And he made a very profound comment that I hope that all of you can remember. He made the comment, just as we created this problem, we can fix it. And I think that's very relevant to districts, to Rotary, and to clubs around the world. We created this problem and we need to fix it. And I'd like to share with you what Howard Schultz did with Starbucks to bring back Starbucks to what it is today. So let's look at what Mr. Schultz said. He first of all said that they lost sight of three very, very important items that were critical to Starbucks' success. The first thing that he lost sight of, and here's that word again, they lost sight of their culture. They lost sight of their values, and they lost sight of what mattered the most. So let's go over a little bit of their culture. If you think about it, Starbucks does something very, very, very important that I think we as Rotarians can. Culture is being a proud member of Rotary. Individuals that wear their Rotary pin all the time, go to district events, and are proud to share that they are a Rotarian. The values, and I hope that's something that Rotary never loses. Rotary's got these 5 values that I hope that we can always make sure that Rotary clubs have. And first of all, that is diversity. If you think about it, the number of people that are under 40, the number of women in Rotary. Are we diversifying our Rotary the way that we should? I don't think that we are. The other thing that we need to always maintain is our integrity. We need to maintain our leadership. We need to maintain our fellowship. And we need to maintain, obviously, our service around in our communities and around the world. Let's look at the last thing that I think is also very, very important. And that is something that he referred to as the customer experience. If you think about it, one of the things that happens when all of you go into Starbucks, the first thing that you hear is, "Welcome to Starbucks." And I see it all the time, even though I never go into Starbucks to get a cup of coffee because I don't like their coffee, but my wife certainly does. But one of the things that they said that they lost was the customer experience. In other words, that's what Mr. Schultz said, was that we have got to bring back that customer experience and welcome people into Starbucks. And this is something else that I think is very, very important. All of the servers of Starbucks are taught, we don't serve coffee, we are serving people. And again, I think we can relate that to our Rotary Club. We are not serving Rotary, we're serving people. Not only people in our Rotary Club, but people outside of our Rotary Club. So let's go over something else that the customer experience is really all about. And I think that Rotary leaders need to do several things. First of all, they need to know the skill sets of their Rotarian members. How do you do that? You communicate with them. You ask them, what are your skill sets? We also need to ask them, what are their desires to serve? We also need to get them involved early. This is one of the reasons why we're having the turnover that we have in Rotary, is that we are not involving and engaging our members into Rotary service. The last thing is encourage and allow them to serve, not just sit around, have a meal. Encourage them and allow them to be able to serve not only the Rotary Club, but outside of the Rotary Club. If you think about it, Rotary was always done at the club level. And that's one of the things that if we're ever going to get our mojo back, we have got to look for Rotary opportunities that open doors. And I think that's one of the things that we really, really need to look at. So what I'd like to do is look at leadership in Rotary. And one of the things that we need to be very aware of is the service that you do in Rotary truly matters. It really does. And I hear presidents all the time that say, you know, I got stuck as the president of my Rotary Club. Quite frankly, I wish I could serve as a president of my Rotary Club again. I would do a much better job. But your service in Rotary truly does matter. The other thing that I think is very important is that we're not serving Rotary, you're serving people. And I think that's really critical. I know that we are going to be able to get our mojo back. And I think that that will truly happen if we think about what we are doing in Rotary and we just simply get it done. I'd like to leave you with all of you with a video that was put together by the Rotarians in Great Britain. And I think it really is something that I look at quite often because it does really put in perspective what I think Rotary does. And I hope that you enjoy this. Thank you all for allowing me to be with you, and I wish you all the very best of luck next year. Sonny and Jeff, thank you a lot again for allowing me to be with you today.
Thank you so much, Greg. And we will take questions either again by using the chat or by raising your hand. Stephanie Hale, you have your hand raised. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. This question is for Greg or anyone that would like to respond. And forgive me if this is a little lengthy, but let me explain. So our club has dropped in membership. As I'm kind of happy to know that it's not just us, that it's a global thing, not a fun thing. But I would say 75 to 80% of our membership is those members that have been with the organization for 20 and 30 years. They're celebrating those milestone anniversaries, right? So I have a lot of stagnant, I just want to come have lunch and chat with my friends. And and I don't know if that's happening everywhere or if it's just something that we're experiencing, but I'd like to get some feedback on how. I really enjoyed the encourage and allow them to serve, but I don't know how to motivate them to do that. You know, I mean, I don't want to cut them short. I think they're all wonderful, amazing leaders of our community. Don't get me wrong, but I need some advice on how to encourage these folks that really don't have the motivation to get out. And does anyone else have that same thing within their groups?
Well, Stephanie, let me address this first of all. You have a problem that is not uncommon at all.
Okay.
Rotary, the average age of Rotarians are getting older. A lot of these Rotarians have basically said, look, I put in my time, and they quite frankly get very complacent. You know, and what happens is they see Rotary as just simply a social mechanism, if you will. One of the things that I have seen work very, very well, now it's a little awkward, but I will tell you it works, and a good example is my Rotary Club in Evergreen. We had exactly that situation going on where we had a lot of elderly Rotarians that were just simply sitting around, nobody's doing anything, and they were paying for a lunch or a breakfast, and then they would go home, and that's all they would do. So one of the things that we worked very, very hard on is attracting young members. And by bringing in young members with older members, it was a little awkward because younger members didn't want to sit with older members. But we found out that the younger members really wanted to know the experience, to learn from these older members. And the older members really truly wanted to add value to the younger members by giving them their perspective and their history of how things were used to be done in the past. And I can tell you right now that our little club in Evergreen, Colorado, which is used to be very small, is over 125 members now. And it's got a lot of young people, it's got a lot of old people. And one of the things that we're seeing happening is that the younger people are working with the hands of the older people. And it's a great combination of making the transition and giving the older people something to do besides just sit around and have a meal with other people. And I hope that helps you a little bit.
Very much so. Thank you.
Greg, this is Jeff. Rotary has its new strategic plan, and we are very fond of it. We think it hits a lot of the right notes. But I'm wondering, this is something that's going to take a number of years to not just get our mojo back, but get our numbers back to where they were. Is it your sense that Rotary International or Rotary North America has even a longer term plan, 10, 20, 30 years of long-term strategies to get us back to where we were?
That's a great question, Jeff. Rotary just rolled out the new strategic plan, but quite frankly, that is a plan internationally. One of the struggles that we have is how do you take a global strategic plan and bring it down to the club level? That is really difficult to do. And I'm going to share a thought with you that is going to be a little unusual. Each club in Rotary, all 36 clubs in Rotary are autonomous. And I would encourage each one of the president-elects to simply do what you need to do in your community to make your club relevant. And that means doing anything that will make that club prosper and be attractive inside your community. I would not be hung up on the strategic plan or the global plan of Rotary International, but I would encourage every one of the clubs to develop their own strategic plan to where they can be relevant in their community. And I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you. Other questions either through the chat or raising your hands?
This is Renee Jeff, if I might
Go
add
ahead,
something.
Renee. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is along the lines of Stephanie's question about the seasoned members. I did have that when I was at the White Sands Club. And one thing that I tried that was very well received from one of our seasoned members who sat in the same seat every week and you know, doggone it if you tried to make a move and all that good stuff. But basically they, I sat down with him right before I was inducted as president, and I asked him about his journey in Rotary. And I was like, you know what? I would love to go to lunch. And I picked him up for lunch. We went to lunch and we got to know each other. And he became a lot more involved instead of, you know, just curmudgeon, basically. So that helped a lot, actually. If you show them the interest that he was past president. I had no idea. You know, he'd been with the club for 20 some odd years. So that's another idea that you might be able to use.
Renee, thank you very much. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, is re-engaging these particular individuals. One of the things that we do in our club is we ask one of our seasoned members, if you will, to simply present his story, if you will. Allow them to tell what they used to do. And I will just share you one little war story. We had an individual that had been a member of the club for around 20 years, and he was going to leave the club. And one of the president-elect of the club said, well, wait a second, before you leave, can you make a presentation as to who you are and what you used to do? His name was Sam Smith. That's not going to mean anything to any of you. But we found out that Sam Smith is the individual that developed all of the electronic transfers of money throughout the world in our banking system. And we were sitting there every week with an individual that had developed all of the transfers of electronic transfers of money around the world, and nobody knew it. I can tell you right now that everybody wants to sit with Sam now because he's so fascinating. And Sam would never leave that club in a million years because he feels wanted now. He feels that he's adding value to younger people that want to know Sam's story. So thanks again, Renee. I appreciate you doing that to that particular season member.
Sure.
We have a hand raised from Laura in Los Alamos. Laura, go ahead and ask your question.
Sure. Hi, Greg. I am hoping we might be able to get the link to that video because I think that would be a really good video for us to put on our YouTube page and to be able to play on our laptop when we're going out to, you know, things like Los Alamos Leadership, where we actually set up a little booth and we talk about what we do in our community. I think it would be a really great recruiting tool for us as well as for Great Britain. So I was hoping you could share that. Also, I was wondering, do you have any suggestions on how we can create signature events and make Rotary more visible? Because I think that's one of the things that, you know, there are so many different organizations out there, as you mentioned, and so many of them are losing members. And I know that when we actually completed the treehouse at our Pajarito Environmental Education Center a couple years ago, that really brought Rotary into the forefront. But one of the things we've been thinking about is how to create more kind of visibility in our community for Rotary.
Well, thank you very much. And yes, I will share the link and the video. I'll share just the video so you don't have to go out to a link, but I'll share that with Jeff. and then he can share it with all of you. You know, most of the clubs in District 5520 are smaller clubs, if you will. And I love smaller clubs, and I'm going to tell you why, because they may be small, but but they're very mighty. I have seen clubs where they do signature events with the city that they are in, and they partner with the city, and they get tremendous exposure that Rotary is part of that community, and it becomes a really good Rotary membership recruiting tool because people want to be a part of that. But I would encourage you to be creative. The Rotary Club that I make up in Scottsdale, Arizona, this particular club, it's got 28 members, and it puts on every year an event called Special Day for Special Kids. And they've been doing it for 35 years. And we provide all the food, drinks, train rides, carousel rides, bouncy toys for 3,500 mentally challenged children and their families. And it is such a big event that we have individuals that come to us and want to join that particular Rotary Club because they want to give back to the community like this particular Rotary Club. It's an amazing event, and I would encourage you to get out of the box and do something unique and different so that it does give exposure to your Rotary Club, that you are people of action, if you will. So thank you very much, and appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Jimmy Melver, go ahead and ask your question, please.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. This is Jimmy Melver from the Northeast Rotary Club. We also have the older generation that's in our club, but we're very fortunate in that we happen to have an individual that is very, very dedicated to being a Rotarian. And he's got 56 years of perfect attendance. His name is Sherman Barnett. And everybody that comes to our meeting wants to meet the man. And so it's one of those situations, you know, our club is changing the age, and we're getting a lot more younger members in our club, which has really been great these last few years. But it's a situation where when you have somebody in your club as famous as Sherman Barnett is, because he happens to own the world's largest Harley Davidson dealership, and because of that, he helps all the Rotary clubs in El Paso with golf tournaments and everything else. And so it's good to have someone like that.
Thanks, Jimmy. I appreciate it. There are other special people in your club. The problem is a lot of times we don't know it.
Sonny Kellerman, go ahead.
Uh-oh.
Well, I know we could spend a few days or a few weeks on this topic, and it's hard to wrap it up, but I do have a couple things I'd like to underscore as we bring this part of our meeting to a close. One is, Greg, thank you so much. This is a pleasure as always, and a really useful look for us at what's next. The comments that have been raised are all right on point, and I think that what they really highlight is that there's not one solution to our issue. There are a lot of things we can do, and that when it comes to retention, having people feel known and having them know they make a difference is really key. So getting the people in your club to be acknowledged, to be known, to be appreciated, and then to be engaged in something that fits for them is one of the first kind of casting director jobs of a president-elect, I think. I also want to mention that when it comes to attracting people, we have a lot of resources available to us, including the Be a Vibrant Club workshop, the Healthy Club checklist, the member survey, and new I don't want to say rules, I don't mean rules, new guidelines from Rotary International about what's acceptable and still in Rotary. You know, we have a lot more flexibility than we've ever had to make clubs meet the needs of the people who would like to participate with us. We now know, for example, that we don't have to meet more than twice a month if we don't want to. We can have our meetings be fellowship events or service projects. We can actually move away from just lunch when that's appropriate. And we don't have to be charging huge dues for meals if that's not what works for our members. So be willing to be bold and be creative and be flexible in the interests of your clubs. And the last thing I want to say is we are disappointed that we have to move our district assembly on membership. You know, we were all going to meet on April 25th with Ken Boyd and past President Rick King, but we'll do something similar, even if we have to do it by Zoom, where we can bring ourselves together to explore this issue more, because a lot of the answers are with the people in this room. Greg, any final words for you?
No, I too am disappointed that we have to do this virtually. I was looking forward to being back in District 5520 again. I don't tell anybody, but it's my favorite district. But I will encourage everybody to do what Sonny's saying. Please be aware that you can do anything in your club that makes it relevant.
Yeah.
And you can quote me on this last part. There are no Rotary police. You can make your Rotary club look like anything that you would like to make it look like. I've seen some models out there that are so unique, but it doesn't matter whether it fits my needs or whatever, but it fits the needs of those particular people in that community. And those kind of Rotary clubs are prospering. And again, thank you very much, Sonny. And thank you, Jeff, for allowing me to participate.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. We'll get you back here soon, one way or another.
Okay, friends, we have a presentation coming up, so let me go ahead and share my screen again. And this is going to be by Bruce Bordner and past District Governor Lonnie Leslie and past District Governor Doreen Kelsey. So I want to make sure that the three of them are unmuted.
I'm unmuted.
I'm unmuted.
I'm unmuted.
Hey, we're all unmuted. Hey,
All right.
before we get started, I got to ask Sonny a question. Sonny, how much time do we have?
You have the better part of 45 minutes. I think you're our final show for the day.
Oh, okay, great. Hold on. I've got my timer here.
We have Jeff. He'll keep us on track.
Okay, very good. All right, well, let's get started. I really enjoyed Greg's presentation, and I think for those of you, I wonder how many of the president-elects that are here today were at our previous Zoom meetings where we talked about being a vibrant club. You can electronically raise your hands, and maybe Jeff can tell me how many actually do that. Let's see here.
Where is the thing to raise your hands?
It's under participants.
Yes, if you click on participants. Oh, we're getting quite a few.
Oh, good. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right, good. Well, let me turn that off now. There we go. So for the next 30 to 45 minutes or so, the three of us are going to be talking about, how to run an effective club or board meeting. And I have to, I guess I have to start off and say that, having an effective club or board meeting also helps you be a vibrant club. But this is going to be kind of tame. It'll be kind of, it's not quite as exciting as what we just went through and all the things that we need to be doing to really be vibrant, to make ourselves, to get our mojo back. In other words, what we're going to do, all this is designed to do really is to kind of give you a mold, a template, if you will, of how to run a board meeting or an effective club meeting. But really, it comes down to how, what works for your club. Small clubs do things differently than large clubs do. I can tell you that as I've had a chance to travel around in my 12 years in the district at 5520. So anyway, what we're basically going to do is show you a template that you can use and you can modify and do anything you want with when you run your board meetings. And I'm sure you've all been in your clubs long enough to see what goes on there. And maybe you might want to make some changes. Well, maybe there'll be something here that you can take home. So if we can go to that first slide, Jeff, and we'll get started. So again, what I'm going to show you here for the next 5 or 6 slides is a template. This is something, and by the way, this was, I can thank Doreen, past District Governor Doreen Kelsey, for this. This, I believe she brought with her from when she was a president of her club up in Eastern Washington. Is that right, Doreen?
I think that's its origin. I have a treasure trove of Rotary archives, so thanks for the acknowledgement.
Okay, so in other words, this is something you can fill in the blanks before you have your meeting, and hopefully you have passed on to your club members. They know in advance what's who your speaker is going to be, as far and what the program is going to be, and so on. Some of those things, and we'll talk about that as well. So here it is. It's your Rotary guide. I don't think you really need to. You'll probably remember the name of your club. So meeting agenda. What's the date? Not a bad idea to keep these. This is not a bad thing to keep as a record, especially if you want to go look back and say, when did that person come and visit our club? So the other thing about this is that I can almost guarantee that except for ringing the bell to start your meeting and ringing the bell to close the meeting, and the possibility of maybe the Pledge of Allegiance and the 4-way test, there's no 2 clubs in our district that do this the same way. I've visited probably a third of the clubs in my years as a membership chair and working with Rotary Leadership Institute. And everybody did it a little bit differently, but it's really whatever works for you guys. Okay. For example, some clubs now don't have an invocation. If you do, then who's going to do that? It's nice to have that figured out and get those people selected before the meeting starts, so you're not getting up there and looking out in the audience saying, this happens quite frequently. Sometimes you look out there and say, gee, I forgot to do this. I wonder who can do the invocation. I wonder who's going to do the pledge. Well, this will help you get organized. So you put here, who your invocation is going to be. And most importantly, then, I think one of the things that I think is really you need to be worried about, not worried, but consider is we need to make sure that you identify and introduce the guests that you have. These are our future Rotarians, and also visiting Rotarians. Please leave some time to do that. And there's a number of ways that you can do that. If anybody, we tried, our club, the Del Sol Club, tried something one year, which I think worked really well. Not only did we introduce our guests, but every week we had a Rotarian of the Day. We only picked those people that brought guests, and instead of introducing themselves, we had them talk about their guest. Not just introducing them, but talking about what they did. Where they were from, and so on and so forth. And when that was, we got a number of new Rotarians doing that. Okay, next slide, Jeff. So once we've got everybody introduced, then come the announcements. Here's where I've seen, and our club is no exception. Here's where I've seen where the clubs, the club presidents kind of they wait until the last minute or whatever. They don't really know. They're not sure who's going to be standing up to give announcements, and all of a sudden it begins to run long. And the next thing you know is you got to cut the time of your program. So not a bad idea to plan this in advance, and just put down, who do you want to recognize and get the announcements. The door committee, we would call this, I think, our red badge. These are people that I think are greeters. Is that right, Doreen?
Yes. And this is not meant to be a static document. This can be adapted to any club's use, and the order can be changed. But I think, you know, your point, Bruce, is that I just want to revisit your point about planning ahead, because when you pop something like that on somebody at the last moment, something that could be an honor under different circumstances, such as giving the pledge or giving the invocation, it can become a burden or an embarrassment because they don't feel prepared. So show that person consideration by inviting them a few days before the meeting so they can be prepared and do a good job. And the same with announcements. Make sure that people know the expectation is they have to make a request of that time in advance, because if you shortchange your program, you and I know that that's not fair to the presenter.
Exactly. But I do have a question though. What's a bulletin editor?
That's a newsletter editor.
Oh.
Or actually, some clubs have a bulletin for each meeting. So this is just a very generic form, but in addition to maybe a weekly newsletter, there'll be a bulletin on the table letting everybody know, what's coming up that week. Maybe birthdays, things like that.
Very good. Okay. So here all during announcements, here's where typically your committee chairs will be recognized, and you'll talk about what they're doing. If there's anything coming up, like if you need people for an event that's coming, then these are the sort of things that the information that you'll be getting while you're doing your announcements. But again, this is where most clubs tend to, and ours is no exception. If we don't plan this in advance, and all of a sudden people say, "Oh, I have something I want to add too," but they weren't planned for, then these are things you got to take into account. You're going to allow that to happen. As you'll learn later when we talk about board meetings, we don't allow that to happen because then the board meeting runs long. But here we generally tend to, if somebody has something that's important, but they forgot to tell us about it, then we let them do that, and chances are we'll run long. Next one, Jeff. Then you now here's an example, and again, as Dorian said, this is just one way to do it. This particular group, they have their sergeant arms come up and they do fines and that sort of thing. We don't do this in our club until the very end of the meeting, as well as a drawing. We have a drawing too, Lucky Bucks, and they called it 50-50, and they do it. Other clubs in our district, in fact, there's at least one or two here in Albuquerque, that they do their drawing before the program. Ours is after. Okay, it's really up to you guys. And then hopefully you have time for your program. How much time? Well, depends on who's coming to speak. How much do they want to? How much time do they need? Are they going to have audiovisual equipment? Oh, by the way, having run into this problem several times, it's always nice to know, working with hopefully your club admin people, whoever your club administration committee chair is, that it's nice to know when you have an outside speaker coming in, what do they need in terms of audiovisual help? Are they going to have a slideshow? Are they going to show videos? Do we need sound? All that needs to be thought about and set up ahead of time so you don't waste any time during the actual program, during the actual meeting. So nice to know who's going to do the introduction, what the program title is, and who the speaker is. At our club, we use a PowerPoint show that we run at the beginning as people are coming in. That gives them information on who the guest speaker is going to be, what the topic's going to be, and also other information, and maybe photos of events that we've been participating in, and so forth and so forth. But this is just one of those planning things that you need to think about, is how much time do we need extra time to get ready for this person, depending on what their audiovisual requirements are. Next slide, Jeff. Okay, so hopefully now in our club, we usually leave at least 20 to 30 minutes. It's mostly 20, 25 maybe for our program, but again, it depends on the speaker and what their requirements are. But then we wrap it up. In this particular format, we've already done our, we've got our lucky bucks or whatever we're going to do, and we've got fines and so on and so forth. That's already been taken care of in here. But in our club, we do that at the end. And so that means that we need to be winding down the speaker around 10 minutes, maybe give them a hint at 15 minutes to go, and at 10 minutes, we need to start wrapping it up because we still have about at least 5 to 10 minutes of stuff to do at the end of the meeting. So then when you adjourn, ring the bell, and the meeting's over. Not a bad idea for the club presidents to make a note here. You can use this form to do that. How well did things go? Did it, some things happen that weren't planned on? Just kind of notes to yourself that, oh, I need to remember that for the next time we do this. So that's generally the way it goes. Again, different clubs have different ways of doing things. I'd be very curious to hear from anybody in the audience if there's something that works particularly well for you that we didn't talk about here. Want to share it with us? I see lots of chats.
This.
Oh, that's all great.
This is not so much about the meeting itself, but knowing who your speakers are in advance gives you a wonderful opportunity to let the community know what you're going to be speaking about and inviting them to join you.
Right.
And we've had a number of new members come that way.
That's right. And most clubs, I think, at the end of the meeting, and when now you start to thinking about what's going to happen next week, it's not a bad idea, as it says here, is give your club members a sneak preview about what's going to happen. But since not all of your members are going to be at every meeting, it's also a great idea to send out a weekly bulletin of some kind. And our club does that. We have a weekly announcements where we kind of go back over what happened at this week's meeting or the past week's meeting, who our guest speaker was, what they talked about, just very brief comments on that, and any other specific topics that we want our club members to be aware of. For example, we've got a fundraiser coming up, or we have an event that we're going to go collect trash someplace, or we've got something going on that we're going to and we want people to know about it in advance. But then we also send out a weekly announcement, usually over the weekend, for the next week.
Bruce, we have a couple of hand raised. Let's start with the incomparable Jimmy Melver. Jimmy, go ahead. Jimmy, you're on mute. Let's see, I can unmute you. Jimmy? Okay, how about Stephanie Hale, and we'll go back to Jimmy. Stephanie?
She's on mute too.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
yes.
now she's good.
Okay. I was on mute as well. I'm sorry I'm asking so many questions, but this is the first time I've been around so many Rotarians at once. Kind of overwhelmed. When I joined Rotary several years ago, our speakers were, just amazing. We had astronauts and NASA and Los Alamos folks and people from all over the state and part of Texas. And as over the last couple of years, it's kind of gotten more into local and kids and things like that. And I'm wondering what anyone's suggestion would be, Bruce, how to get better. I don't know how I'm trying to word this, how to ramp up or revamp our speakers, because it's getting to the point where we're getting, over the last 6 months, I think we've had the same speaker 3 times. And and I think it was an oversight, and but people don't want to see that, and we're losing attendance because of things like that. And I'd like some feedback as to, or some advice on how to maybe broaden, or maybe invite Rotarians from other clubs down and speak based on can we do that? I'm sure we could do that. you know, I just need some fresh ideas. I mean, I feel like my club, and I'm not putting down my club at all. Please don't take it that way. But I feel like we're in a lull and I need some help.
Oh.
Can I address that, Bruce?
Yeah, go ahead, Lonnie.
We used to have a program chairman, and you know, that was a miserable job because he would work you to death finding the astronauts and all, you know, to speak. And in our programs did very similar to yours. Some president came up with the idea that every person in the club would be assigned only one program to obtain that year. So that has worked remarkably well. You know, you've got basically an entire, well, it's kind of according to where you fall on the calendar. They do it in by last name, but you know, if you can't find a good program in out of the whole year, you're certainly not, you know, looking hard enough. And that, I think our programs have dramatically got better since that time. We noticed that we have several doctors in our club, and one of the things that they're great programs, but it makes it kind of interesting to try to eat dinner and watch their program at the same time, because they like to bring their operations on slides and show, you know, this is how I replaced a knee. But they're fascinating. It just, everybody's got their hands over their eyes, you know, not trying to see all the blood. But anyway, that works for us.
Okay, thanks, Lonnie. You know, the key is having a good committee and a good committee chair, people that will go out and really look for some really interesting speakers. We're blessed in Albuquerque in that we have, you know, what, 6 clubs plus, and then we've got Rio Rancho next door, and we can, you know, when I was president of the club, I would go visit the other clubs, especially, and they would invite us to their meetings when they had extra specially, you know, neat programs set up. And then, you know, I would ask them, well, who else have you had that's been really good? And more than one time, I've gone to another club, listened to a program that was fascinating, and then asked that person to come to our club. So that's another source. But I like the idea of asking the club members to take that on and come up with at least one speaker a year, you know, or something like that. Depends on how many members you have, though.
Okay, we have a couple more raised hand questions. Jimmy Melver, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to mention the first sheet that you had. We do the same thing in the Northeast Rotary Club. We have a sheet already made up so that we know who's going to do different parts of it. But I've always felt that I always felt that it should be God and country. So we do the pledge first. And then we also incorporated a Texas pledge along with it. So we do the invocation, the regular pledge, the Texas pledge, the 4-way test, song, and then we do the greeting.
Yeah, I wonder, I do the music, or I have done the music for the club for 20 years. And that's something that we enjoy doing. I'd be curious to know how many clubs that are represented here today do music. Raise your hands.
A few.
Not that many. Now, interestingly, we have a satellite group in our club, and they do not do music, and they get along just fine. So, you know, that, again, I think the music thing is perhaps not the sort of thing that a younger club would do. But again, it depends on the makeup of your club. Any other comments about the agenda?
We have a couple other questions. Laura Gonzalez, go ahead.
Hi, this was kind of a comment more for Stephanie. But one of the things that I think is really helpful to do when looking for speakers is to talk to your local governments, your local utilities, have them come and talk about projects in the areas, talk to the school. We actually had a really great presentation a few weeks ago before all this craziness, where the superintendent of the schools spoke to us about what the plan was for the schools and the county and how we were going to do it and how information was going to go out, and how the students would continue learning if everything that has come to pass came to pass. And just all those opportunities to talk about the projects that are coming up, any kind of regional initiatives that you have in the area. There are lots of people out there who are more than happy to share what's going on, and government particularly. I mean, having worked for government for many, many years, I can tell you government loves to talk about what we're doing and how we're trying to serve our citizens. So
Thank you.
Okay, and I forget, who is iPhone?
It's Susanna Hallmark. I've been in charge of speakers this year, and I've really had a lot of fun with that. But what I started in January, and it makes it easier actually, I had a series of, I had to label it pretty nicely, but I said health issues as we age. So I would have Parkinson's, someone from the Parkinson's, someone from Alzheimer's, someone from cancer. So every week I knew for a month who my speakers were going to be. So I was able to organize it so that everyone knew what was going to be talked about for the month. And it's been really successful.
That's great. And what I also like about that is that when people come to the first meeting and they get really excited about the program and they know there's 3 or 4 more to come, they're likely going to want to come back and hear the other speakers too.
Right. It's ongoing. That's exactly why I wanted to do that. Give them a reason to come.
Yeah.
So.
Jimmy, do you have another question or a comment?
Yeah, I want to just make a comment on the speakers. In our club, what we do is we ask each member to take a month, and that's their responsibility to get the speaker for that month. And the second thing is, I know that a lot of people don't like to sing. One of the things that we had corrected that problem is that we actually made up a book, and we actually copied it from East Side Rotary Club, and we have a book of 40 different pages of songs, and everyone has that songbook, and our song leader happens to be a choir director, and so he says selection so-and-so, and so they just turn to that page and now they know what the words are. So it's not very difficult to make that up.
Excellent, thank you.
Jeff, can I just say something really quick?
Yes.
I just want to make sure everybody knows we have just 20 minutes left for the whole presentation. There's a lot more material.
Okay.
Yep. Let's move on. All right. So we've been talking about your normal club meeting where you have a program. There are also club meetings where there's not a program where somebody comes from the outside, but actually the program is the club itself. And Jeff, if you'll go to the next slide, and we call that the club assembly. Okay. So I don't know how, if I think most clubs have assemblies. They may not call it that, but it's any time, it's usually done for a specific purpose. And I took this information out of the Rotary President's Manual. But the purpose then is to exchange ideas, share information about specific issues that are important to the membership. RI says or recommends that you could have up to 4 to 6 assemblies per year, and they even have they even say, hey, these are when you can do them. One for you PEs, if you would like to share what your board is going to be proposing for the club to do for the next year, you could do that prior to 1 July when your year starts. And then right after that, maybe a month or 2 after that, you could start talking about your progress. Other things that you can do is get ready for the governor's visit. We're going to be talking about that shortly. You can also use it as progress checks on any of the things that you're trying to accomplish. And then finally, maybe a completion of projects for the end of your year. You can have a club assembly, the purpose of which is to, you know, look at all the great things that you did and what you were able to accomplish. So club assemblies are a little bit different. Depending on, I know our club, for example, you know, we have one major fundraiser every year to the Governor's Charity Ball. And we typically kick that off in the fall. You know, we don't do it until this time of year. We've had to postpone it. As Tony Pino mentioned earlier, we had to postpone it this year because of the coronavirus thing going on. But we begin usually in the late fall with a club assembly where we said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's where we're going to try, you know, this is what we're going to try and just accomplish. This is how much money we want to raise, et cetera, et cetera. We have a whole meeting for that. We also have a meeting later on in the year to select the nonprofits that are going to share in the money that we raise. So just about anything that needs to be done, but it's going to take more time, can be a club assembly. Now, some club assemblies may not be the type of thing that you want to bring guests to, you know. So just be aware of that and let your membership know, you know, whether the club assembly, whether guests are, you know, should be invited or not. On the other hand, some club assemblies that show what you've done for the year or the things you've accomplished would be a perfect place to bring guests to. So any other comments from our team here on the club assembly?
Bruce, I just want to add that I don't know that it's necessary to have 4 to 6, but I would hope that all clubs would have at least 3. It's really important to engage your members and let them feel like they have a voice in the planning and structure and objectives of your club.
Okay. Lonnie, did you want to add anything?
I echo that completely, that, you know, clubs could get in a real habit of conducting all the business in the board meetings, and that's fine as long as they share it with the club and give them input in some of those decisions. But that has to be planned, and it has to be in a club assembly. Sure doesn't need to take place in a regular meeting with a speaker.
Right. Okay, very good.
Jeff, I have 2 quick things if I might add in there. Also for club assemblies, it's nice to have a little fun in there. And I know when both clubs that I was president in, we did a Rotary Jeopardy. And so I have a template of that and more than willing to share. I actually Googled and found it. So you can, you know, pull things about your club, pull things about the district, and make it kind of fun. So those are good things to add for assemblies too.
A great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Okay, Lonnie, if you'll pick up here, we're going to be talking about the governor's visit.
Okay.
And then we'll be talking about the board meetings, because those 2 things go hand in hand. So I'm going to turn it over now to Lonnie.
Okay. Most people have probably heard me tell this story, but I think it fits what I'm going to talk about very well. I was following Kip Turpin around. He was the governor in front of me, and I was using the bathroom before the meeting started, and a very nice Rotarian was visiting with me and asked me if I was a visitor at the club that day, and I said, yes, I am. And he said, oh, no, I am so sorry. Today's the day that the district governor is coming, and it's the worst meeting of the year. I learned a lot from that discussion, and hopefully the worst meeting of the year won't be when the district governor's there, because it should be a time to have fun, a time to share, and a time to talk about the accomplishments of the club. If that's going to happen, though, the district governor has to know what's going on. And so I'm convinced that the most important thing that happens in the district governor's visit is when the district governor meets with the board of the club. And the timing on that's important too. It certainly needs to take place before the district governor speaks. It's fun to share exciting things with the club. And when you're giving your talk, and brag on the club, pat them on the back for all that they've done and all that they've accomplished. But a lot of times you won't know that unless you've had the board meeting before you speak. It's the timing of that's pretty important too. You can either have that board meeting the night before the district governor speaks, or the hour or hour and a half before the board meeting. I mean, before the club meeting when the governor speaks. Either one of those work really well. Some clubs, because they have board meetings that are a week, before some specific week during the month, kind of expect the governor to show up at that meeting, and I've done that. But if you can rearrange the schedule and not force the governor, in my case, to drive 6 hours to attend a board meeting, that's a really good thing, and you can just simply do it by the night before or the hour before the meeting. One of the things that helped me out a lot is if the club had Rotary Club Central up to date. I was blessed that my wife went with me to all 71 visits, and one of the things that I always did is talk her into driving the car, and I could sit there and read in Rotary Club Central and know about the membership, know about the giving, know about service projects. And those are really important things, and that's a great source, but it's no source at all if it's not up to date or it's not there at all. The thing I think it's important to remember about the board meeting is that it certainly might not seem important to your board, but it's really, really, really important to the district governor. And I had a set of questions, prepared questions, and I did this with all 71 clubs, and because I wanted to talk about certain things and I wanted to be able to compare the clubs. So I asked questions about Club Central service projects, e-training attendance, Rotary dues, Rotaract, Internet, Youth Exchange, RILA, district grants, global grants, membership goals, progress, and plans, every Rotarian every year. District, that dates me, I was going to say district raffle. Paul Harris Society goals, Polio Plus goals. Are you in compliance with your IRS 990? How are you doing on the presidential citation? And what about Rotary Leadership Institute? Are you participating in that? So I think those things are things you need to know and be prepared to answer before you have the visit with the governor at the board meeting before the governor's visit. Okay. I'd be glad to address any questions you might have at this point before we go on, if you'd like. Okay, Jeff, let's truck ahead. Again, I truly believe, just exactly like Bruce and Doreen said, that you need to have a something that will keep you on track during the meeting. The one thing that I would add, and I didn't learn this in Rotary, I'm the chairman of the board of a Presbyterian healthcare hospital. And sometimes in the long time in the past, the meeting would start at 6 o'clock in the evening, and we would get out of there at 11 o'clock at night. That's a killer. And in order to prevent that, we started having prepared agendas, and the very first business item on the agenda was to approve the agenda for that evening. And I'd give people a chance to make additions or corrections to the minute, but you approve the agenda. And once that agenda is approved, you don't add any other business to the agenda that night. And that really works remarkably well in a hospital board setting. And I think it would work just as well in a board setting of a Rotary Club, that you have an agenda, you voted on the agenda, you know approximately when you're going to be done. We also put approximate timelines on the discussions, where if you want your meeting to be over in an hour, if you'll put assigned times to each one of those discussion items, that really helps the people stay on track that's presenting, and it helps you get finished in a timely fashion. If you want to go ahead, Jeff. Let's talk about board members for just a minute, and committees. You know, I think one of the things that's one of the most difficult things to be a Rotary Club president is one of the most important things is the people you surround yourself with on the board, because that can make a huge difference in the success of your year. And I know sometimes it's hard to find people to be on the board, especially the smaller the club. Sometimes the harder it is to find those people, and they have to serve over and over and over again in different capacities. But I've also seen clubs that they just go out and find somebody, a warm body to fill a position. And that's just pretty much destined for failure, in my opinion. To put somebody as the foundation chair that doesn't contribute to the foundation, to put somebody in charge of membership that hadn't brought in a member in years. You know, you can give examples for each one of the different committees. And so I don't think you can do a more important thing as you're getting ready to be the president, to surround yourself with people. And I know in a lot of cases you're going to inherit folks, and you don't get to pick your own folks because those positions are already filled. But if you have a chance to fill them, do it carefully, and I think it'll pay big dividends to your club, to the membership of your club, and to your success as president. I think that's all the slides, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, just about. Next slide.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's one more.
Okay, and again, just like we've talked about earlier, you know, have a specific time for old business, new business, and then adjourn the meeting and get it over with, where people can go back to work or go back to their families and not feel that it's been a burden, but it's been fun to be there and it's been rewarding. That's all I have.
Great. Thanks, Lonnie. Okay, Doreen.
Okay, can we advance to the next slide? Okay, so I'm not going to go over every single item on this list of protocol, but where protocol comes into play is usually when you have a Rotary event, a more formal Rotary event, and if you're very fortunate to be blessed with senior Rotary leaders such as Greg Pod or Rick King, or you know, people that have served Rotary in a high capacity. As part of, I guess this is just sort of Emily Post for Rotary, is how I would describe it. When you have guests attending, they've traveled a long time, they've given many decades usually of service to Rotary, it becomes very critical, I believe, to show them the proper respect. And that's really where protocol comes in. We tend to be a little more informal in the Western United States, but in other areas of the country and other areas of the world, formality is just another way to honor the guests that have come to your event. So the more formal the event, I believe, the more important it is to follow protocol. The key to protocol is that your introductions are first based on the level of, let's just say rank for lack of a better word, and then present, past, and future. So when this says president at the top of the list, it's talking about the Rotary International president or his or her representative. And then depending on who else is in the audience or in attendance, you would introduce in this succession, for example, the past president. So that's where we go from present office to past office. So you always introduce the present person with the most authority, and then you go to past, and then you go to future. So you can sort of see it becomes somewhat intuitive as you go down through this list, the order of introduction. Now, what I have found very helpful, and this also helps me not overlook anybody, because there's nothing more embarrassing to have a formal event and forget to introduce somebody, a past district governor or, you know, a Rotary president's representative. You really don't want to be in that position. So what I would do beforehand, before the formal event, excuse me for just 1 minute. Okay, I just had to mute myself for a second. What I do is go through my guest list ahead of time, and I look at who's going to be in attendance, and I go ahead and put the guests in order of introduction using this guide for protocol. So you won't be using this very often, but it really comes in handy if you have a formal event and you want to know the proper order to introduce your guests. We'll just go quickly through the rest of the slides so everybody can sort of see the hierarchy here. You know, it goes from directors to trustees. Jeff, can you advance? Oh, thank you. General secretary, directors-elect, past trustees. In order of seniority means how long they've been since in that position. So you would introduce, for example, a past trustee from 2013-14 before you would somebody from 2018-2019. And then we can just go to the next slide. Now, at your discretion, you can go lower on this list, depending on how many people you need to introduce. But in a formal event, you wouldn't necessarily individually introduce anybody below the rank of district governor's nominee or nominee designate, but certainly you can just sort of follow that same order of rank and then present, past, and future. Maybe I did that wrong. Present, yeah, present, yeah. Past, and future. Okay, any questions?
Maybe not. Maybe it's time for us to wrap it up here.
Yeah, I think we're at the 2-minute warning.
Yes. Yep. 7 seconds to go.
We do want to address with you at some point the options for online meetings. And I think, Jeff, we might be able to squeeze that in tomorrow. What do you think?
I think so.
Okay. Then may I just take a couple minutes or a minute and a half to say a few things to wrap up? I'd like to begin by thanking Greg Pod. Greg, are you still around? Greg, and then thank you, Bruce and Doreen and Lonnie, past district governor Lonnie. That was really, really helpful. And I want to remind you, if you're leading a meeting, 2 things that will make you a star are to be clear what your intention is for the meeting and make that happen, and end the meeting on time. If you do those 2 things, people will love you and will find your meetings useful and will come back and have another meeting with you. I want to thank everyone for participating, for the chat questions and comments, for the great ideas, for coming back. We hope you'll come back again.
Yes.
You know, Zoom is better than not being able to see people face to face. So it's a pleasure to see you all and to have you together this way until we can follow Michael Moore's suggestion and find a way to be together in person. And we will work on that. So, and we will be continuing, as Tim Sexton suggested, this membership conversation. We'll have several more conversations about that and how we can be creative and expand our reach as well as our.
Cindy?
Yes.
This is Greg. If people want to send me an email, they're certainly do it. I'd be willing to answer any emails that anybody would send to me.
Thank you, Greg. We'll make sure they have your email address so they can do that.
You have 13.
All right, folks, it is 3 o'clock.
Tomorrow's meetings, 9 to 11 on the 3 essential elements of Rotary per our zone: membership, brand, and the foundation. And then as well, Jeff, are you still, Jeff? And then as well, we'll do some discussion of service projects and fundraising. 1 to 3, we'll have a session on youth projects and risk management. And then our own Greg Pod will be back to wrap us up in the afternoon with a session on leadership. We'll see you tomorrow at 9.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Great evening. Bye, everyone.
Take care, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you all.